over to you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Human Responsibilities Tribunal and the Riff Raff podcast with me, Limina, and my co-partner in a crime. I don't know, David. Hi, David.
Hello.
David's coming to us from Nova Scotia, as usual. I'm actually on vacation, whatever that is. And I'm joined now by Zara Setna from the Collapse Life. Hey, Zara, how are you doing?
Hi, nice to see you all.
Yeah, you're all settled in Texas?
Yeah, settled as nomadic folks can be. Yeah, for now, yes.
Right on. So Zara is a Canadian as well, and so most of what we're talking about is going to be around the Canadian bureaucracy. Though I think we see it in the bureaucracy in many countries and with universities in many countries. So I'm hoping that that'll still be in your wheelhouse. And
Absolutely.
Payman, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
How's the craziness of BC these days?
Crazy as always.
So you ran for the PPC party, and now you have your own podcast, and your sort of specialty is like shining light on, I guess, the malignancy now that is government organizations in the bureaucracy.
Yeah, kind of. I have conversations with regular Canadians, and I'll be honest with you. I don't talk to somebody who says life is good. I like going to the bar. I live in the city, so most of the people I talk to recognize something wrong in Canada. I bring them on, and they tell me their story.
Yeah, I like that. I like that because there's something very interesting about the common man now, right? That their experiences and that the government and the ideology has become so imposing in just our everyday life where you're thinking about it numerous times a day.
Yeah, no, it's all encompassing, and this is just not a way to live. I always say the government is just it's they're suffocating me. I can't live like this.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. It's like a bad boyfriend you can never break up with.
I'll take your word for it.
And then there's Jamie, who's not quite on there yet, but he'll be joining us soon. So Jamie is an
Yeah,
escapee from the post secondary system. After years of education, he ended up finding some of the things that we're going to talk about today in terms of what research is, what research isn't, and how ideology and I guess just egotism has captured the universities. So, hey, Jamie, he's joining us from Tokyo.
hi. Yeah, so I'm here. In and out. I'm here.
Yeah, okay, so his audio is not going to be great. He's in Japan, but that's okay. He's an expert on the topic for today, so we're glad to have him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thanks. So maybe we'll just get to it. I'm just going to start with the email. Let's put that up, David. So I'm sitting at home. I'm a hunter. Huntress really is actually the term. And to be a hunter where I live and all across Canada, but particularly where I live, you have to be on a database that is the Alberta Environment and Parks, but it is run by the Alberta Conservation Association. So let's just say that we'll call it the ACA, and they are the contractor that does all the services in terms of win cards, hunting and fishing licenses for the province of Alberta. So I'm at home. We often get emails from the ACA or from Alberta Parks about our hunting licenses or your fishing licenses, or if there's been a change, or reminding you that the draws are open or that they're closing. We get those all the time. So then in January of 2024, I get this email. Game meat consumption in Alberta survey, and it has the Alberta logo saying it's the Alberta government. But if you go down the slide, what you can see is it's actually the Alberta Conservation Association asking us to participate in research about game meat consumption, and they've partnered with the University of Alberta. And so a couple of things I'd like to point out is the Alberta Conservation, again, is the contract worker for the Alberta Environment and Parks, which means that everything they do with our information is for Alberta Environment and Parks and those licenses I mentioned. Now, here's another thing is that the Alberta Conservation on their other side, which is not running the government database, funded this research. They are the grant funder, which they gave to the University of Alberta, who put together the project, and then the ACA, then they were the ones that recruited participants.
And
Once
Lumina,
we-
just a quick question, just as you're going through this story, did that initial email actually invite you to participate? Did it give you an option to say, yes, I would like to participate, or no, I opt out?
Yes. Well, so you didn't have to opt out. What it did was it asked us to participate in it, that the conservation was directly asking us for our input, and that you had to click a link to go there. They did lay it out in some ways pretty good, that this actually met the ethical expectations of the Research and Ethic Board of University of Alberta, which I'm not sure how. And then it just said, and this information will be for public use when we're done. So at first it seems really innocuous, except for that research recruitment is actually it's supposed to be a really sacred sort of bond there. You're not supposed to just send it out to anybody, and using a government database to recruit people is actually almost unheard of. It's so stringent. So that sort of, at first I was like, oh, okay. But I actually went through and did the research. So if we could just maybe at first, I think what I'll do is take a look at the two big, so this is the personal, let's look at that one, David.
Okay.
So this is the data collection on the actual Alberta Environment and Parks database site, that hunters and fishers, we have to be on there. So we are not members. You have to be on there. You're mandated to have an active, profile on there, with everything from your name to where you live, what you've hunted, what you've gotten in previous years. You have to put your information in there. And then their part of that was any information that they collect can only be used for the purposes, so it disclosed or used for the purposes laid out, which is hunting and fishing licenses. So this is a FOIP statement, which is our freedom of information and privacy. And so we go from there. Let's go to the next slide here, David. So there's actually a few legislations that it's on. If you can go back to the first bit. So there's that FOIP statement I just showed you that said that we have your information as the government. We will only use it for the purposes of what it is you've inputted it for, which is hunting and fishing licenses and draws and everything around it. I've also added the PIPA legislation. So PIPA is it is the non-governmental legislation for privacy for, say, NGOs or a private corporation, so that they're not using your information, and the statement is the same. We will only use it. I added that in there because the ACA is the government, and it's also really not the government in this case, which is sort of that gray area. Then if you roll down this slide to page 2, you can see that the Trilateral Commission strongly recommends that you don't use a government database for the recruitment of participants. And it also really states too, because this is how this must be how some are getting around it, is that the recruitment of participants for any research project, whether you actually have to go someplace or whether it's a survey like this, which is considered low risk, is part of the research project. It is not a preamble to the research. It is the research project. That's why it's always written into the research project, and we'll show that later. And who is in charge of maintaining the Trilateral Commission's recommendation for ethical research is the Research and Ethics Boards, which are within the university, so they police themselves. So I think that is all pretty clear, and I think actually most people know this. Most people know that the government just can't take your information and start sending you Reebok marketing commercials, or send you, the government of Alberta is actually really recommending Walmart now for all your groceries. Okay, so that's what they're doing because they can. So I think we all inherently know this, right?
I think though that, well, we should know. I do want to give you credit for the instinct that hit you when you got this, because if the government had sent me an email, like, oh, the IRS is sending me emails about taxes, and then all of a sudden it's an advertisement for Walmart, that would strike me. But this is so seemingly innocuous, and it seems as though it fits with what they might want to be collecting information about. Like, your spidey sense went off, and it's good that it did, because you discovered all sorts of things in investigating this, which is what we're going to talk about today, that really rise up to, I think, even higher level. But you had an instinct here that I think is really just worth recognizing, because we should all be honing those instincts so that we can, not that we have to be suspicious of every single thing that happens, but have the instinct so that when something is a little off, we feel it and then we look into it, because I think we just take too much for granted.
Oh, and I love that you say that. I just want to say one thing before I forget. I could not put up because I didn't feel right and I couldn't get permission, but I wasn't the only one. So on the hunting boards, there was things like, did anybody else get that creepy survey from the government?
That's good.
Oh, everything from, did anybody get that creepy survey, to I'm deleting it, this is clearly for lab grown meat, to it's none of their business, why are they doing that, to, so there was a lot of, and then there was a few that's like, I'll do whatever Alberta Conservation says because it has conversation in the name.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Could I ask Payman, your podcast is called In Lay Terms, and you talk to the ordinary Canadian about things. So why don't you tell me and our listeners, because this is way out of my area of expertise and knowledge, but I'm aware that government is extremely corrupt, and we're looking at some of the strata here today, in the weeds of this corruption. So why don't you tell me in layman's terms what we're talking about here today?
Sure, I'll try. Yeah. I went through Limina's all her documents, and I was reading. It's a complicated series of events, but I would put it like this: you had a free people, like Canadians were free, and then you introduced this legislation where they say if you want to hunt, I'm glossing over the details. If you want to hunt, you have to register your email. So that's the first layer. And then you have this firewall that was set up, like the people that register, we promise you that we're not going to do X, Y, and Z with your email. And then they violated their own rules. They turned around and they did do X, Y, and Z, which is, in this case, they used her email for purposes other than simply hunting. And then on top of that, the purposes that they used it for was not to use the example Zara used, just redirect people to Walmart or redirect them to Subway. They used it specifically for something that most hunters would actually disagree with, which is lab grown meat. And this sort of ties into this. I don't usually use this expression, but this like whole of society approach, where they're they've gotten all of these different institutions and all of these different departments and offices. The one for hunting to get your email, all the money that goes into universities, for example, all of the money that goes into subsidizing these labs for growing meat, and they're tying them all together. So now Limina is just one tiny little ant for that. That's what Limina is to the government. They can just crush her. She's a nobody. We need her vote every 4 years, but other than that, we're just going to completely violate her. And Limina's like, no, I'm not an ant, so I should fall back.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say we're not sure actually if it has anything to do with lab grown meat because they haven't stated really in any meaningful way of what the information would be used for. And maybe I'll have Jamie come in here too because it there is also another whole set of laws and ethics from the Nuremberg laws all the way on down the line into universities that state that at every point in a research project, the sole focus must be that the participants are okay, they've consented to what they're doing here, and that they've been recruited in an ethical and legally responsible way. And I think that is the biggest thing that set me off. We did a research project on homelessness in 1999 in the town I lived in when I was a student. And man, they put us through the ringer. None of this would have flown. Like we had to send our project back 18 times to figure out how to say, is somebody indigenous in a way that was okay? And not indigenous in a way that was okay, right? And so actually on this research project, you were either indigenous or you were not. That was it. Those were the only two sort of categories. But it was interesting to me that the use of a government database, I already knew that was a huge no-no. And maybe Jamie, you can speak to that because they're making it seem like how they recruited people were incidental and really none of their problems. Somebody just forwarded it, but that's not actually true. That is the starting point of what is supposed to be a sacred and ethical relationship between the researchers and the participants, and why that's so important. Like everybody's seen what is this? Not the Stockholm, the guards and the prisoners, where that all went wrong, with the researchers. Oh, I can't even remember the name. But it is so important. And so the idea that they illegally on several points just were recruiting people, that was just the start of how not only bizarre, but absolutely poorly done this whole research project would be. I could even overlook it if I thought, this is going to be great for hunters. This is going to help conservation. This is going to get more hunters on there. But wait till we get to some of the slides. Like, it's not even right. And in some of the slides, they even asked us if we were doing illegal things, but they didn't even know it was illegal.
The Milgram experiment.
Milgram, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Jamie, give us what are you thinking, man? I'm looking forward to hearing your take on this. Because I know that you're quite a sharp. He's in Japan, so we'll see if he can. He's in and out. Oh, there he is. Hey, buddy.
I'm trying to find a PC or thing that will give you good audio. Mic. Are you getting bad noise?
No, Lemon's got a fan noise.
Okay. I would say that in principle, there's supposed to be that sort of high ethical bar, informed consent, and all that stuff. But what I feel after COVID is that our institutions and rules are only as strong as everyone's willingness to uphold them. And so I have no confidence that those sorts of things can't be violated at this point and worked around. And, one example is a case, I think, out of the UK where a woman who was raped, you called her rapist faggots in the conversation, and she ends up getting arrested. And So we're in this situation where groupthink and new sorts of priorities can usurp what are these seemingly like established. Um, sorry, I'm struggling to get the audio to work correctly. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, whatever you did there fixed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's those cheap headphones I bought. Yeah, so I would be highly suspicious of anything at this point. That I was watching U.S. podcast. I think it's Redacted, and they were talking about some sort of Obama era tweaks to informed consent that seemingly allow U.S. citizens to be experimented on without their knowledge and consent. And I don't know the details of that, but I don't know if that's come across anyone's radar. But
I think that's sorry to interrupt you, Jamie. I was going to say that I think the informed consent piece of Limina's story is so important for all of us because we've all just been through COVID, and many of us who were not involved with research before, we didn't even really know what informed consent is, what our rights are within it, what we should be expecting or demanding. There was, as we all saw, this absolute appeal to authority to just like do what you're told because someone who has more degrees than you says so. And I think it's really critical for all of us to help people understand what informed consent is and when to expect it and what to expect of that process, because we completely gave that power away during COVID, and it's definitely going to come again. And we should all be screaming about informed consent. Everybody should be talking about. Everybody should be able to rattle off what it is. You should know the risks and the benefits and the alternatives, and be able to make a decision about something that affects your life with all the information. It's baked right into the name. But I just think that nobody ever talked about it before COVID.
Yeah, and I guess for people that haven't been through a university system and maybe graduate level studies, these things aren't self-evident or ideas they've ever been exposed to. Most people had no idea that there's an insert that accompanied the COVID shots and that it was actually blank. And so it's impossible to have informed consent. Your doctor doesn't know shit. Everyone's it's just a mimic sort of behavior, and it's outrageous. But I'm also concerned too that the nudging phenomenon that came out of psychology and sort of made its way into government policy. I think this sort of mass data collection is part of a government's desire to be able to wield manipulative techniques on the population. And so knowing how much resistance or openness there is to lab meat is one of those prongs in there with their faulty assumptions about what constitutes ecological balance and the food supply. And so I suspect there's a lot of that nudging / shoving, and that's one of my concerns with this situation too.
Lemony, you're still on mute.
Oh, I just muted myself again. So two things are important about that is that it's interesting to me as a social worker and a counselor that COVID brought that up, because every time you go to a doctor, every time you have a shot, every time you get therapy, every time you see a counselor, that should be your first session. And the fact that it wasn't before tells me that we had problems pre-COVID that were then just really aired out and came to the forefront. The other thing is, and I just want to say this name and people can look it up, is the Access Consortium. It's part of the new International Harmonization Council, where they're trying to make everything streamlined internationally around medicine and what have you. And one of the things that is on the table now because of wearables is if you don't know your information has been harvested, that doesn't hurt you, and therefore consent may not be needed.
Hmm.
Yeah, so people can look that up because that's on a side note. Yeah, there you go. So
Who
so then
who's
maybe
that
we
creepy philosopher? The guy that
Yuval
wrote Human.
Harari.
Yuval
Yeah,
Harari.
yeah, where he's like basically saying we got to get under people's skins, and there's
Yeah.
just a lot of people out there who think they know better for others, and they don't mind using whatever techniques available to them to impose their will, and it's
You know, just in the past 20 minutes or so, we've discussed the lab grown meat issue with relationship to this survey. So maybe Lavina, you can tie those two pieces together, because the survey was not specifically about lab grown meat, but you had an inkling
No.
that from the questions that they were asking, and then from looking at the researcher's background, and that was her main course of study, you kind of put pieces together. And I think that's another really important issue here is they collect information during research studies purportedly about one thing, but they may actually be using the direct information collected to make inferences or assumptions or to create a context around something completely different. So I think it's important to maybe clarify that this was not a study about lab grown meat. It was a study for hunters about what you like about the
Meat.
texture of meat or the mouthfeel or things like that.
Yeah, so that is also another thing that sort of opened my mind up to is like, what the F is this about, right? So I did have some interaction with Todd Zimmerling, who is the head of the ACA. So maybe I'll do it this way. Let's throw up a few of those slides that I actually took screenshots of the research project that was on there. And one of the things that I couldn't get through to him or to anybody else is whether it's a low risk human research project, this one still involves humans, and even a human just filling out a survey is still one of those protected areas. So if you look at this, it's like,
Want me to read it?
yeah.
Because this is
Yeah,
this
go
is
ahead.
unbelievable. So please select from the list below the most and least important attribute you consider when consuming game meat. Type of species: tastes good, familiar, easily obtained. Weird.
Yeah.
What do they care? What do they care?
So you see that around food marketing. So let's just point out two things here. Well, a few things. Wendy Meisner's main focus is lab grown meat. She's the head researcher for this project, although they said she's got she's not got her hands on it. It's a grad student doing it. But even if you look at the top, you can see W. Meisner at Codulax. Like, it's clearly her research project she put out for the funding. So her hands are in there. And I
Wisner. Let's just be clear. Wisner, not Meisner.
Oh, sorry. My son's best friend's name's Meisner. Poor kid.
And
He's
Wendy
gonna hate me
Meisner
for
was a
this.
CBC reporter, wasn't she?
Well,
Yeah.
that doesn't bode well for her either. No.
That's Wendy Mesley.
Wendy
Yes.
Mesley too. Yeah.
So yeah, so it's coming up on things like this, and so even let's take the lab grown meat or the cultured meat out of it. This lady's and the lady under her, whose name is Sandra O'Dami, who is the student who ran this project. They're in the food sciences division. They're not even in conservation. They're not in environmental sciences. So this isn't some craziness outside of my head. And the truth is that because they've said that the information will just be there for the public to use, that even without any sort of maliciousness here, 5 years from now, she could be like, what could we pull from this? Because things like texture, like look at this one, is like, one, you can't farm game meat. Game meat is wild meat. You cannot sell game meat, and you cannot farm game meat. So if you have an elk that's farmed, it's not considered game meat, right? These are some of the things I brought up to Todd Zimmerling, saying that, like, one, I think that you've misused our information here to recruit us, but two, this project is so poorly put together as to be worthless. And he came back and said to me, and there's an email there if you want to bring up the ACA email, where he's like, yeah, we know that there's problems with the whole research project, but actually we're just doing it so we can build a relationship with the University of Alberta so we can do more research with them.
I can put that on the screen, but you got to tell me which number that slide is.
Oh, it's 2 and it says ACA, I think.
Yeah, give
So
me
you
a
can
moment.
see here, while you're looking, let's look on this. It's like, I like cooking.
I
Food
spend
is
much time
important
and
to my
effort
life.
for choosing food.
I think it might be worth revisiting whether it's poorly designed from the perspective of what are the intentions. So if there's actually
thank
covert
you.
intentions here, right, you might see that it's actually quite well designed for its purposes, just not the stated purposes.
I never even thought of that, Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you were actually going that way, you don't care if game meat exists anywhere else, right? Because
Yeah,
that's
like
not
if you're
what
a lab, if you're a
getting at.
Frankenmeat specialist, that's maybe not really what you're after. But you know when surveys are conducted too, and they're trying to avoid leading the subjects, you know, they're crafted in a way that attempts to hide the desired answer and that sort of thing. So there could be that sort of thing going on if you read it from the right angle.
I never even thought of that. I just instantly go to there's a lack of competency, right? So
Is this the email you were referring to?
yeah, so this is with Todd Zimmerling, and at the end, like, he got really accusatory of me of like trying to come up with nefarious intentions behind this research project. Like, he just, but at the same time, he said he recognizes there's problems. He recognizes that there's problems with the researchers, that pretty much they knew nothing about hunting. But that really food is the only reason he sees that is socially acceptable for hunting. So that's why they did this. But the biggest but is right there, is that he would like to, so he said that it appears I feel, so just for asking questions and telling him that there's serious problems, which he acknowledged that there's problems with this, and that there's possibly a conflict of interest because they're the funder and also the organization that gave access to all our information to recruit us, which is a conflict of interest, that I am the one coming up with nefarious intentions. And I just cautioned him against that. But it comes out, he sends also in here that this is just the start. This is just the inception of the relationship that they want to continue to build, specifically with the Food Sciences Division at the U of A, to create more and more research.
Limina, don't you feel assured? He says to you, it appears that you believe there's something wrong here, but he says, I can assure you there's not anything wrong. Or do you feel assured by Todd?
So there's a couple of things here. So I don't see it on the screen right now, but you're saying that he admits that it was perhaps not the best designed research. Mm-hmm. But he also says that he funded this research, and although it isn't said in this email exchange, that the ACA is the holder of your personal information, and they are the ones who randomized and selected you to take part in this survey. So if he's admitting on the one hand that it was not well designed or executed, and yet we're the ones who kind of, supported it, we paid for it, and we are basically putting a stamp of approval on it by saying this is good enough for us to send out to the people whose names we have in a database. That's a problem as well. And you're just supposed to go, oh, well, yeah, I guess next time they do it, they'll do a better job. Like, no,
next time they misuse my information to create more research with the Food Sciences Division, they'll do a better job. And, I'm just trying to say to them, research is only as good as the research project. Like, to me, it's so now you've misused my information, you've sent out this crappy research project, and I can already see that the information is going to be skewed and bunk. But then I never thought of what Jamie said is maybe it's not. Maybe it's not bunk. Maybe that's exactly what they wanted. I'm not
thank
sure.
you. Thank you for people who are restreaming this and also commenting. Yeah, Christine agrees here. Exactly. The stated purpose is not the actual purpose. These people, my God, what's wrong with them?
Well, what's wrong
Elizabeth,
is the clone thing, right? Is we had to introduce clone meat, the Canadian government says, because nobody would eat it if we told you we were going to, right? So that's why we don't want to do it. And that's what this feels like. We have to do it this way. Otherwise, hunters, the hunters I know, including myself, there is some sort of bond we have with those animals. That would be the last vestige to break to get. We're probably the last group that's going to be like, yeah, lab grown sounds great. I love everything to have no texture or flavor. Awesome.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? I
That's
think we're
you guys. Yeah, hunters are the diehards
We're the most.
who think lab grown meat is an abomination of nature in general,
yeah.
which it is, of course.
Sorry
But
for
not
cutting
but
off
the
there, sir.
but
Sorry.
there's restaurants out there that are serving lab grown meat as we speak. And in fact,
Yep.
Campbell's Chicken Soup has, if you read the side of the thing, it says lab grown
Gross.
chicken meat. Yeah, so
Gross,
it's out
gross.
there, man. It's out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, not good.
And even if that was the purpose of it, it's just people have a right to know where this information is going to be used. And I think, and I said this to Todd in the email, is that I think that if certain hunters found out that their information was used in any way, in any part, to either market or produce or be misused in that food sciences part to get people into that, I think they would be harmed. I think they would be harmed. And I would say, just ethically, wouldn't you be, if you actually believed in ethics, wouldn't you be cautious about that?
Can I just want to, like, you have two groups of people. You have one group, the hunters, that are passionate about hunting. And you have another group, let's just call it the state, that's passionate about lab-grown meat. And the first group, the hunting group, has to ask permission from the second group to go hunting. You need a hunting license, or you need to actually register. If you spun that around, imagine if vegans to pick vegetables had to come to hunters and get a vegetable picking license. So this is kind of like what I'm trying to say is the natural consequence of, it's seemingly a good idea to have a hunting license because of reasons. I don't know, the deer population. But once you cross that line, bad things start to happen. And right now what you see is the government's not respecting their own rules to, not willy-nilly send your email out to surveys, whether you agree with them or not.
Yeah, well, for sure. And I think that is true, and I'm glad you bring that up, is whether I agree with it or not, whether it goes the lab-grown meat way or not, is not the government's right to take whole databases and use it for any purpose. So is it going to be where they're going to start sending me out marketing for this and that? Am I going to get tents? Am I going to get survivalist stuff? Are they going to be marketing prepper stuff? Even if that is in our wheelhouse, that's still not allowed, right? Even if you don't actually share the database, you can't. Somebody at ACA is not allowed to forward on wall tents for sale at half off. And they can play these games of, we didn't share it, it's fine, we didn't breach it because we didn't share it. But they clearly know you can't use it, or else we would be getting all sorts of marketing things from them that they would be paid out for. So it's already there. Interesting. So let's segue into the University of Alberta, because here's the funniest part. Todd Zimmerling from the ACA, the Alberta Conservation Association, is working really hard by illegal means and probably legal means to strengthen his relationship with the U of A. And you want to know what happened when I sent it? They blamed it all on the U of A. So I had it was almost a 1 year process with the University of Alberta, going back and forth with their rep. So actually, this didn't even have to be a big deal. I emailed the researcher twice, which I was invited to do in the original email, to have my questions asked or answered, and nobody got back to me. So then I got a hold of Todd and had a group email, and he's like, "Oh, I'll just do a group email with them." And nobody got back to me from the research project. Then I contacted the REB, which is the Research and Ethics Board at University of Alberta, and they sent out a group one. Surely, they said, "I'll just have you in there and get them to get back to you." They never got back to me. But they did assure me when they had their own meeting that they had actually had several calls from hunters wanting to know what this is about. And once they answered, because they answered, of course, all their questions, I was the only one that somebody didn't get back to. And all the other hunters were satisfied. Therefore, I should be too. So it's interesting, and that's how we started. And then 4 months later, I said, "Well, what did you come up with? Did you talk to the researchers?" And then 2 months later, I'll send another email saying, "It's now been 6 months. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you?" "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm doing this and I'm doing that." And we're doing a deep dive investigation. So let's just look at that slide for the U of A. There should be two. What I found when I messaged or sent any letters to the University of Alberta is I actually had to inlay the legislation because they didn't know it.
Is there a number on that slide? Sorry.
Sure.
I got a lot of slides.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure this was up because I don't want to be one of those. It says U of A, so there's three. U of A email thread is one of them.
And it's one of the ones you put in the StreamYard?
Yeah, let's see if I can get it in there myself. So I have problems with the StreamYard. It'll only take so many slides.
I can show you the whole file folder right now,
No,
right here.
it's okay.
Boom, it's one of these, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want, I can just double click, away we go.
Sure.
You see those? Which
Yeah.
one?
There's a good comment from Christine Mose, who said
Yeah.
to Limina, they didn't get back to you because it's a technique to suppress your inquiry.
Right.
So yeah, exactly. Like just
She also
ignore.
says, I was an activist back in the day wanting to change the horrors of factory farming. Now I raise meat rabbits to take full responsibility for how my livestock lives and how it is properly dispatched. Yeah, very good.
Oh, what was her name?
Christina.
Christina, me too. Me too. And that's also why I hunt. Because that animal has one bad second. And sometimes it doesn't. Like, me and my husband have gone out and we've created, I guess I would say, a bond with the animal, or we've been in such awe that we've just watched. We've just watched it and to see what it's doing, right? And so I find that I just uploaded it there. Do you see it? Slide 10. I'm not under.
Not this one. Not this
No.
one. Not this one.
No.
Sorry, everybody.
No, it's.
I'm the
this one.
producer, but I'm not doing a good job. Not this one. This one. Here we are. Sorry. This
Yeah.
one. That one.
So then, after going back and forth for 6 months, this Kim Kordov, she was sort of my liaison, and what she did was convened the researcher herself and the research graduate student that was actually in charge of the researcher. They had a meeting of themselves, about themselves. Can we all just guess what it was? It was fine. They decided what they did was fine because they didn't share our information. But that is not what the legislation says. The legislation says they may not use or share. So of course, here's another, this is a letter. So again, I'm showing people these letters to let them know this isn't just something I'm complaining about. I've spent hundreds of hours going back and forth with several agencies trying to get through this. And you can see where I've actually added in the legislation into the letter. And in this one, I just said to her, like, I find it hard to believe as the Research and Ethics Board, one, you don't know this legislation, but two, that you just all sat down and said, is everything we did all right? Yep, everything we did is all right. You never talked to any of the participants to make sure they were okay. You never checked any of the hunting forums, which I sent them. I sent them links. I showed them things that is saying to them that this is not being well received. And that tells you ethically you've gone wrong somewhere, right? They sent me a letter back saying, no, we've met with ourselves again. And we say it's fine. So I actually asked for it to go up to the chair of the Research and Ethics Board. And maybe we could take a look at that one in specific and then put to rest at U of A, or then just maybe talk about it all at once. So in the last letter of the U of A here, and maybe I'll just share screen instead. That looks like it might be easier.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, Jamie, do you have a coat hanger and a refrigerator behind you?
So my regular gig is I have an all Canadian wine business here in Japan. This is my wine shop. So that's my little office space that you see there. So there's lots of wines for you. A little gin from Ontario.
Do the Japanese love
like it.
your Canadian wine? Is
Well,
Canada
that's
known
the
for
ones
its
who
wine?
know. The ones who know do, yeah.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
actually just dealing with an event with a major Canadian company later this
Nice.
month. So yeah.
Okay. Do the
Work in
Japanese make
progress.
much wine themselves?
Yeah, I actually started a podcast that's about Canadian and Japanese wine regions and production. So
I like it.
there's nothing
Cool.
gritty on that one, nothing contentious on that podcast. I keep
You're
that
not
all
talking
to this
about,
stuff.
transhuman vaccines and stuff on that one?
No,
Okay.
I keep
no,
that out.
okay. I'll keep that out, yeah.
You're not going to get to that place like where it's going to be like the big maple syrup heist or anything like that, only with wine.
Well, I'd love it if we get that kind of demand. That'd be great. Insurance would kick in and we'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I just uploaded that number 11 there, if you could, David.
This one?
Okay.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is their final letter here, and as you can see from the yellow highlights and what have you, so it's Jason Acker. He's the Associate Vice President of Research Integrity Support, whatever that is. And he went over what my complaints were. In between this, my complaints and also my confidentiality went to shit because it went to a gentleman named Brian Stokes, who is he's the fixer guy. So when something goes wrong, he reworks it so it doesn't look like it's their fault. And then it came back, Brian Stokes and this fella, because I FOIP'd all my records, but interestingly enough, the University of Alberta wouldn't let me have all my records, citing that it might cause some of them harm, which seemed like a big kick in the face that I was the research participant. But you can see here, so that the ACA sent their research project out to their membership. But again, this is how poor of an investigation was done. We are not members of the ACA. We are not members of the ACA. They're a contractor that runs the Alberta government database. Again, they tried to say they didn't share, the information wasn't shared with them, but that is not what the legislation says. The legislation says they may not use it. Again, they clearly know that, or else I'd be getting advertisements for everything. And then here, with that beautiful relationship that the ACA is trying to cultivate with the University of Alberta, they just throw them under the bus. If the ACA did this and they weren't supposed to, that is the ACA's problem. And he's given me a process in which I can report the ACA for their research project. It is completely insane to me. So another thing that I mentioned is once I filed this formal complaint, the ACA deleted my email from their database so that I was no longer receiving my mandatory information for my hunting and draw license. So here's where we're at.
So they
You know,
So I'll remove that document. And
I feel
we'll have a
like
little discussion.
we're in clown world now. So that is the highest point of the Research and Ethics Board within the University of Alberta. So I would just like to point out too that, you know, they didn't think it was a big deal that I had retribution as a research participant for making a complaint or having any sort of inquiry into the research project. They also didn't see, and it's not their problem, right? It's not their problem. They don't know the legislation. It's clear to me there was no investigation, but then it's clear to me they also don't know confidentiality. So they emailed my whole record to this Brian Stokes, who's like a marketing guy, like the fixer for the University of Alberta, and now all my information of a confidential research participant is gone. Nothing to see here. And then if you read that letter at the end, he just said he didn't want to hear from me. Nobody's actually ever spoken to me. None of the researchers, none of the reb. He writes, his last letter is, we consider this closed.
Limina, I just wanted
Yes,
to
ma'am.
share something. There's a gentleman in the audience. His name is Kirk Reese. He's a military whistleblower. He discovered fraud at the L'Orange military base. He escalates it to the Internal Investigations Department. The military says nothing to see here. He goes to the RCMP. The RCMP says not our jurisdiction. He takes it to Anita Anand, who's the Minister of Defense. She says it's not my responsibility somehow. He takes it to some of the political parties, NDP. They say you have to go start from the courts or the ombudsman. So the executive branch has this knack for bouncing you around. And they do this on purpose because they don't want to be held accountable. The system's designed so that we, the little people, can't fight back. In your case, because you're dealing with more of a civilian side, I think they were just really honest. They're like, whatever, just ignore this lady. but it's a less professional way, less advanced way than what they do at the executive branch.
Yeah, except for that it actually really is the government. That's the government database. They're in charge of it.
I was snooping around here in Nova Scotia. And let me show you a little news snippet of something that's going on here around here. I reached out to the chief of this group in Pictou County. Indigenous leader in Nova Scotia accused radiologists of conducting secret tests. Basically, a lot of the Native Americans in her band, her reserve there, they were given these radiology MRIs to test their, I guess, brains and other things for some sort of whatnot study. But the kicker is that they were not told that they all had their livers examined secretly. And not only that, but the two radiologists who conducted this study worked for Dalhousie University and a large hospital, the QE2, right here in Halifax. And then these two radiologists went to a radiologist conference in Halifax, just down the street from all of this, and presented all of these facts of the livers of the Native Americans here in Nova Scotia that they took without their consent. So this Chief Andrea, I believe is her name, she didn't want to come on my podcast to talk about it. but she's suing the pants off these two assholes for this secretly. What someone said the Tuskegee experiment, and
Yeah.
I don't know, Native Americans have a little bit of a history of this shit already. It's still happening now.
Well, that's not unusual. MK Ultra was tested in Canada, in Montreal, on mentally ill people. I mean, all of this is not new. And every time something like Tuskegee comes out, or MK Ultra, or say this one, or I had one where they tested this brainwave contraption on kids. They put together a new set of laws, like Pam was talking about. It was like, the perpetrators are coming up with the laws, but they know the laws don't work. So then you get caught into this endless carousel of bureaucracy where you're going from one thing to the next. Because after the Reb closed my file without ever speaking to me, I did go to the ombudsman, but the ombudsman can't do anything because it has to be the Alberta Environment and Parks. And even though it's their database and their contractor did it, and even the contractor DOA memorandum of understanding, which I read, said that ACA must adhere to all the legislation for the ministry, and they didn't. It doesn't matter. The ombudsman can't get them. So then I went to MLAs. Everybody passed the buck there. Then I went to the Human Rights Tribunal. And actually, the Human Rights Tribunal was kind of maybe the most honest one after my appeal, which was basically this: everybody gets that same shitty service. So if everybody kind of gets it, it doesn't matter, because, technically I'm disabled. Obviously, I have some cognitive function stuff. I'm not the smartest or the fastest when it comes to this. I usually think of something really brilliant like a month later. That they just said basically we can't do anything. Now the Privacy Commission has tried to do some stuff, but like I've even sent out letters to certain lawyers, and I just maybe because there wasn't a contraption involved like the kids or wherever, where nobody laid hands on me, people can't see it, but it's still just as egregious, and it's still that same mechanism. And the thing that I found, which is the same thing that these Native leaders have found, which is the same thing the parents of these children have found, which is the Trilateral Commission that is responsible for the ethics of all research in Canada really isn't responsible for the ethics of all research in Canada. If you are even in a university and your research is privately funded, there is no oversight. None. So they can say that, and they did say this with the research project I was involved in, that we adhere to the Trilateral Commission's ethical research policies. You can find it on this website. This guarantees that all human research participants will know where their information was used, that their well-being will be our highest mandate, that we will make sure that everybody knows that active and ongoing consent will be used. But the truth is they just say that. But if they're funded by the ACA, it does not matter. So of course they just investigated themselves and said, oh, we got together, we had a coffee, and we said everything's fine, so therefore it's fine. And we said we did this Trilateral Commission stuff, so that's fine, and so you're fine, everything's fine. And it's like a big, as a punk rocker in the 90s, what we used to call it, a circle jerk. And therefore, where do you stand here? So I have one complaint that's still being heard, but has gotten so ridiculous, it's that same thing. And it was 1.5 years with the OIPC, which is the Privacy Commission, which is the one that the University of Alberta told me to report the ACA at, which I did, and I did report them before they told me to do that. And I've gone through with a nice fella named Gary. But I actually, on the 4th phone call, actually had to read him the legislation before he actually even got what the complaint was. And he's a senior investigator. And what I found is that first portion of it isn't even an investigation. It's more like a mediation. It's like, oh, well, we called ACA and Todd Zimmerling said he didn't share the information, so that makes it okay. Is that okay with you? Can you say that's okay? No, you're not going to say that's okay. Okay, Todd, she's not going to say that that's okay. And it really is just that sort of mediation. And then finally, after like a 12th call with him, he calls me and says, they don't understand why you didn't just delete the email. This is what they've said. Why didn't you just delete the email? And I said, well, because one, I just don't delete things. I'm just a pack rat. And two, that's not really the point.
Man, I admire your resilience and fortitude in doing this, because I'm in college, just community college, and these people are driving me effing crazy. And they have no, they don't listen to complaints. They don't care about whatever, and the environments that adults have to deal with in these environments. So to manage to think that I could fight even this smaller level of just a bunch of idiots at my local community college is such a wall of moronic, stupid DEI cult people that think men can be women, and they teach it to me in my classroom. And to try to fight this system, like, I don't have the stamina. I'm exhausted just from my minuscule situation that mirrors yours. And you're emailing these guys 12 times, calling them 12 times, and you got all this, you're collecting all this data. Like, I would be in an insane asylum trying to go through all this stuff. So I just wanted to tell you, I had kudos to you for having such resilience to fight the fucking system.
I want to second that, and I'll have to jump off, unfortunately, but I do just want to commend Limina on this, your tenacity and your doggedness on this. I know we talked about it, I think, a few months ago, and it was so disturbing you that I sort of said, is it worth continuing? And you said, I don't really have a choice. This is just how I am. I'm just going to keep beating this. But, I'm so pleased that you have, in spite of the difficult circumstances that it's put you under, because I think it's just it's really important when you uncover something that's been done wrong, that you expose it, even if the outcome is hopeless. I think what you've at least done is shown those who have power that you've put them on notice. Like, I know what you're doing. I've seen it. You know it's wrong. I know it's wrong. Whether anything happens, that's there's only so much you can control, but you've at least shown them that they can't get away with this stuff without anyone noticing. And the fact that they literally came back to you and said, why didn't you just delete the email? It's like, I think that's actually just like the beautiful bow on the top of the whole thing, because it really just goes to show they just don't get it, and that is not the point at all. So unfortunately, I'll have to jump off now. I wish you
we'll talk soon.
We will talk soon, but thank you for including me in this. And,
thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it, Zara.
And thanks for fighting the good fight. So we'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Bye,
Nice
everyone.
to see you, Zara. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So I guess where I'll leave it with you guys is I've kind of gone through it all. It's still sitting at the OIPC, because now we're done the investigation part. We're gone to a 18-month inquiry, and she's right. Like, it is really wearing me down, and I'm finding the Privacy Commission is actually sort of being disingenuous, if not outright devious with me. But then you wonder, once you're in it this far, it's been over 2 years, it's like, how do you can't really let it go now, right? And this university, it just started off as like a, hey, don't send me emails I don't want, that don't have to do with hunting. And now it's at like, how is a university this underhanded and incompetent and unaware? And I think the thing that stuck with me the most through all of this is, one, how they all work together, because I'm pretty sure the Privacy Commission is just elongating this, so because there's a timeline for which you can sue, and you need that outcome. So I think I think that was never put into place to investigate. I think it was put in place to elongate a legality so that you can't do anything at the end of it. But what's actually really stuck in my craw is this University of Alberta. The fact that you would acknowledge as the highest of the high of ethics of that place that somebody has had retribution, i.e., getting my email deleted, that it's been distressing, that their recruiting path may have not been done in an accurate way or an ethical way, and they're still like, but that's this guy's problem, even though it's my research project. That's the thing that stuck with me. I think that's why I really dug in.
Ethics is an interesting topic in and of itself, philosophically speaking, isn't it?
Well,
I
aren't
think
you
we
supposed-
see how difficult it is to get any accountability from any government entity, right? There's every, we just saw, the Supreme Court reject the appeal by the federal government regarding their emergency power usage. And I don't see any of those people who made those decisions facing any sort of repercussions. I heard, I haven't verified this, but I heard that some Canadian politicians' names are on the list of people donating to the protest riots in Minnesota. And I thought that gets your bank account frozen in Canada when you when you do such things, right? So all this is like deviating from your specific case to the bigger picture, but I just think we have to inspire everyone to think in minimalist government terms and get this stuff out of our lives. I'm so sick of seeing half of our GDP and half of our incomes go to absurdities that just exercise their outrageous intentions and irrational objectives on our lives.
We're being taxed to death, and payment is.
We shouldn't be giving them any information. I think that's one of the best things to do too, is starve them of information that they could wield against us.
Well, and think of it that way, and so one of the reasons David and I had created the Riff Raft was to create your own life raft. And the thing that I've really, I knew this before, but anybody that thinks that any of these agencies are going to protect them, or when everybody says Nuremberg trial, oh, we got to bring the Nuremberg laws back, those were bunk the moment they exported all those malicious, malevolent doctors over to do research in the United States. Do you know what I mean? With Operation Paperclip. And so then that means we have to hold people responsible, and it's information, like energy in and energy out. And I think the only reclamation I'm going to have from this is trying to suck as much energy out as I possibly can, and make it so impossible for them to keep going and ignoring me. Is just keep going and keep going and keep going. And I think that's probably one of the only uses of AI I can think of too, is to keep doing this. But it is alarming to me that I would say that science and universities, which are supposed to be our bastions of understanding and knowledge, are this incapable and uncorrupt. And there's something we need to keep an eye on, right?
Evelyn, or
Yeah,
sorry,
the universities are a major problem in society today.
testing. Can you guys
They're
hear me?
they're the originators of all the wokeism that we experience, and the corruption of the scientific method towards the interests of pharma and technocracy is full steam ahead in these institutions. So I think in your case too, to manage your mental health in this regard is like what I've done during COVID, when I thought there was some value to engaging with people online about these topics, was I had to develop a set of practices that would allow me to do that in a really unemotional and pragmatic way, just as though it's like folding the laundry, and partitioning some time of the day to do that. And so, little things like I never checked my responses on any social media late in the evening. Just to even know that someone had replied would be enough to instigate my mind trying to formulate a response to what I imagined they had said. And so I put all these things in place. So if you really want to just do this as a matter of principle, just say, okay, I give 30 minutes every 3 days a week to this topic, right? And then I have a cup of tea and just try to really get your emotions out of it, and just be able to do it as a principle where it almost feels satisfying to know that you're tending to it in that sort of way, in terms of seeing it as part of a bigger project of trying to push back on these institutions, but don't let it take your energy.
Well, luckily my chickens and all my animals, they demand they demand that I spend most of my time with them. But I do hear what you're saying, because back to what Zara said, and what and sort of what Payman's alluded to, is these processes are actually designed to make you stand down or crazy. But what I would say to that is that's what it did to Luigi Mangione, right? I mean, I'm not threatening anybody or anything like that, but these systems are starting to drive people mad, like actually into some sort of insanity where they're not going to play by the rules anymore. And I think that is unfortunate. That is unfortunate.
Can I say something here?
Well, I see it as an eternal battle too. I think these
I don't think Jamie
tendencies
can hear me.
of
Okay.
bureaucratization and self-interest,
It's okay.
cowardice that combine with power and all of these things. I think we will never be free of these things. The only thing we can ever do is, on a collective level, have enough people who keep them in check. It's like, weeds consistently grow, and if it's a part of life, part of the package, we just try to make our contribution to try to stem them. And I know this may be a contentious issue, but that's why I'm really rooting for Alberta separation, because I feel like it's a way to rattle people's cages. And like going back to Ontario seems like an impossibility to me. And the fact that so many people are lulled into their own subjugation, and we need these examples to play off of each other, so people can wake up and be inspired by what might be possible. So I need to establish residency there if things get real.
I think when hopeless people, and this is something everybody should remember, whether the bureaucracy works or not, hopeless people fall into hopelessness and then they don't do anything, right? So you can look at doing things, even if it's banging your head against, even if you know that letter won't do anything or what have you, it gives you something to do that's not hopeless, right? That's something that you can do, even if it's for your own self, right?
Well, and I think too,
I'm trying to hang on to that.
The people that have to deal with your complaints are also given some discomfort from their actions. Like during COVID, when they were doing their absurd anti-logical vaccine passports, I would tell my family, I'd say, when you go to a restaurant and they do that, say you need to see all the vaccine documents of all the staff in the kitchen too, to make it uncomfortable to just operate in these ways, and so that they become afraid and start complaining to their managers, and it creates a ruffle in the system. And these things are important. You might not be able to measure the effect of it, right? But no doubt they're talking amongst themselves and in their office, and they don't look forward to this kind of pushback in the future. So it may be making changes that you can't even recognize.
The letters are interesting. I went from Mrs. So-and-so to then my first name. And then by the end, because I did FOIP my thing, I was just called this person. This person has emailed again. And I just thought, I mean, I'm sorry, David's just gone through the worst girl game, but as a girl, that means my girl game is working because I'm just this person now, right? You know, and so I'm trying to take some solace in that. But I'm really hoping, like, with you guys coming on, and there is other parts of what a failure of the Human Rights Tribunal would be, because I've asked for help 4 times as a disabled person to get through these processes. To now I've asked for an advocate because the OIPC actually lied to me to try and get me to sign off. Either that or the fella actually has no idea what consent actually means. So now I'm glad you guys came together, because I'm hoping with all our audiences and sort of this explanation that maybe there might be somebody who could or would come up and give me a hand, right? That would understand this legislation, how to get some traction. My understanding is this might go to a full inquiry at the Privacy Commission, but I don't really honestly think that means anything. This is going to have to be something different. The U of A needs to be outed for their shitty response to how they've treated their research participants, their research project itself, the information, and the bureaucracy. And I think they need to be actually held to account, and so does the Conservation Association, right? To just call me things and make it seem like I'm just somebody that's looking for something nefarious rather than hearing what I say is a game I played when I was 7. You know, well, I don't have to listen to you because you're bad. I saw you kick that kid once. You know, it's like, no, you actually have to be held to account. You're in charge of a lot of information. Oh, they are baiting you to communicate in dishonor. Yeah, I don't. Thanks, Christine. The more they try and beat me, the less swearing I do, believe it or not. There's not even one fuck in all of the letters I sent.
Payman, how are you doing over there, man? Happy Freedom Convoy Day, everybody, by the way. It's the anniversary of the Freedom Convoy. Speaking of, fighting against systems, and being driven kind of crazy, like I'm still trying to eat all the food I prepped 5 years ago, like all the dried beans and rice and shit that we got. I thought a military Humvee was going to come out my driveway and inject me and my family.
David, are you
That's
talking?
how scared I was.
Moving, but I don't
yeah, you just can't hear me. It's okay. Something to do with you being in Japan.
Jamie, we can hear David, but for some reason you can't.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Jamie?
He can't hear anybody.
He can hear me.
That's weird.
You can hear me.
That's weird. Anyway, I think we're slowly working towards a wrap up anyway.
Yeah. So maybe I'll leave it with you guys. Like, so build your own life raft. Payman. I like how you explained everything in layman's terms, or payman's terms, as I like to say. And of course, I like you, my neighbor to the west. Do you have any advice for people? Let's say for myself, is there a way forward for me? Is there anything you can think of? Any contacts? Could you put it out there? And do you have any advice for anybody that's sort of come up against something that's a complaint? Like, I can see how there's big healthcare complaints that people should put in, to the healthcare system or the education system. So, do you have any advice for us as people?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people minimize your expenses. You can, be more sovereign. But I guess in this context, you can't use the systems. You can try. So you can try going through the ombudsman and filing complaints, but they don't care. Like, these systems are broken, and they'll ignore you. I think the only option we have left is putting pressure during election time, and you can't do it on an individual basis. Like, we have to organize. The freedom groups are a good way to do it. And we need somebody to come along to organize all the freedom groups. And they say, all right, we have one use case. Limina went through hell with the Alberta University. And then you pool your resources at the election time. You go to the candidates. You go, this happened. Which one of you are willing to make a public statement on the record that what happened here with the releasing of the emails of the ACA was wrong, unethical, and immoral? And whoever does it, vote for them.
Kurt Reese says 100%. He's behind you. He likes what you said there.
There's Payman's one of his podcasts he does in lay terms. And here, look, it's us on the screen even there. He's live streaming us. Thanks, dude. You have a way bigger audience than I do. That's for sure. Than I do on my podcast. No, so appreciate that.
Well, and I appreciate you coming on too, because I mean, it's always interesting to me what you bring, because a lot of people who are within that bureaucracy are going for votes believe more in the system than they probably should, right? And I do like what you're saying, which is a hybrid approach, but you know, a lot of it does start at the individual. Where are you going to be? Where do you want to end up being?
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to go down that road, choose your spouse and your friends wisely. Like, you don't want to be battling them every day. So, pick somebody who's sort of like-minded.
Yeah, yeah. Jamie's having difficulty all the time.
He's in Japan, everybody. He's in Japan. Long
He's
distance.
in Japan. Jamie, can you hear us?
In Japan, it is tomorrow already, if you can believe it, or yesterday.
I only get your voice. So I'm missing out on the conversation.
Okay. We're just wrapping up, Jamie. Do you have anything to say? Do you have any other ideas that I can follow? What do you say to other people who are, coming up against these things and how they should proceed? And I guess really, I'd like to have any insight you have on these university systems. And mainly, I want you to say people should take a trade. Go for a trade. Go for a trade.
Yeah, I'm a byproduct of spending way too long in the university system. And do something useful. Learn to build something, grow something, make something. Read philosophy on the side. And but yeah, I mean, there's always the ideal of the ethics board and everything. But if you found that it's not being applied, just persist in a way that doesn't zap your energy, and maybe try to find other people who feel the same way. Keep knocking at doors of media that can bring attention to the topic, and make it uncomfortable. If you believe they're in error, make it uncomfortable for them. And I do think this whole fake food agenda might be behind this too. So the duplicity of hiding the real intentions of a research project, I think, is unethical as well. So just keep at it.
Whole thing was, and I really appreciate your support. What's your new podcast name again? I want to put that out there. So for people who are driven to drink by the bureaucracy, Jamie, he has a new podcast, and he celebrates Canadian wine. So.
And Japanese
it's called
wine.
The Viticulture Edge, a Japan-Canada wine podcast. It's on all the major platforms. So we're interviewing people in Japanese wine worlds, Canadian wine worlds, winemakers, people working there, etc. And it's very, if you don't want to deal with anything contentious for 45 minutes, that's a place to go.
I really like it. I really appreciate you being on, especially bringing to, you have such a wealth of knowledge about the university system, and I know you came up and had some of your own issues with that too. So I'm glad you chose to drink rather than continue in university. I think it's the smartest choice you ever made, Jamie. David, thanks for coming on and helping me with the documents. Yeah, because as everybody knows, I'm terrible, but if anybody is interested in knowing more about this, holding some of these people to account or helping me through this process, or knows a good connection for me, if you made it this far, shoot me an email at liminalresilience@proton.me. We'd love to have you on, especially if you have a good strategy. So that's what David and I are about, is doing things for yourself. And this is one of the things that I've decided that I'm going to do, is see this through to the end. And part of it is actually like almost a mapping project too. Now I've made it all the way up to the Trilateral Commission. I noticed that one CBC article, there was actually another National Ethics Research Board that I was going to get a hold of. It's kind of now become an interest to me of how many different pathways I can take that I know aren't going to work, but just to sort of map out that ineffectualness, if only to point out to people that if you think the government is going to come save you, and every time there's a new law you think your life is going to get better, I have news for you. The only way out of this is you.
Yeah.
Just one more thing that came to mind is maybe if you haven't already, is just have essentially clear demands from your complaints, and maybe you'll get some resolution because they want to resolve it. They don't want to hear from you anymore.
Well, if all it took was clear demands to get me to not talk anymore, my husband would have had some demands a while ago, I think.
This could be an idea for a topic for another day, but in my mind, I keep thinking about ethics, for God's sake, and an ethics board and an ethics group who tells me what ethics is. I feel like, and maybe this is a little philosophical for another time, ethics comes from within myself, actually. I decide what ethics is for me, and morality, and love, and other things like that. Is there a board of morality coming too soon? Do you think?
Well, I like what you say. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why I am pursuing this, is because it is so unethical from start to even their answer, even the idea that they never once talked to one of the participants to make sure they're okay, and that they just met and they decided in a big circle jerk that everything they did was great because they said it was great, is, to me, that seems unethical. So I hear what you're saying, and I guess that's the one thing that you can't let somebody take from you, is whatever your drivers are, whatever those roots of your character are, they're nothing unless you live them out. Unless you're taking them out in the real world, right? And so me, I'm just taking my ethics for a walk, and I've made it all the way to the Trilateral Commission. We'll see where we go from here.
Okay. Interesting chat, everybody. It's an interesting topic. It's important to expose the strata. It's not all jabs and left, right, Trump, Carney stuff. I mean, oh my God, it goes so much more deeper. And I think we've drilled down to the rotten core of this goddamn fucking system in Canada here today, I'll tell you. Education system, oh my God. And community college, dude, I'm going to do a whole show when I'm finally done at this college that I'm at. And I'm going to lay out for everybody what community college is like in Canada in health care. Think about this shit sandwich. Community college is the bread. Healthcare is the meat. And you take a bite and you almost begin to believe that a man can become a woman.
Yeah.
Because they say it all the time, and it's on all over the walls. The United Nations goals are all over the walls.
It's on the tampon dispensers.
And there's a tampon dispenser in the men's washroom. I look at it 3-4 times a day whenever I go in there to take a leak. And it's this weird gaslighting thing. And then you know what they do? When you complain to them about anything, like the loud bitch in the class who never shuts up, I can't concentrate, they say, I would like you to review this policy, subsection 6, and then we'll have a meeting next Tuesday about it. But about your behavior, actually, not her behavior, your behavior in class for complaining about this. And we don't like your language. We don't like your behavior. Even though you get straight A's in the fucking course, there's something wrong with you, David. Your behavior is not right. We don't know if you can go out to the hospital and work the way you're acting here. It's just like, anyway, I'm already opening that show. We're not going to do it right now. Oh my God, dude. It's sick.
Well, it comes back to the original thing of, so I read the policies for your institution, and if somebody makes a complaint where you are, it all lies within the receiver. So it doesn't matter what you meant or what what you said or what was actually said. If they took it the wrong way, then that is the complaint. The receiver is in charge of the whole process, and we kind of see that everywhere within that system. Is we said it's fine, we said you're wrong, we said it's this, and therefore it is. And funny that that's the educational system, right? There's nothing behind it. It is that, you know, that high castle view of everything. Is we're sitting up here, plebs, and we said it's like this, and we don't need to prove it to you, right?
No, they sent me an email.
I can't hear you. Your hands in front of your mic.
Oh, sorry.
You're good. Yep, cool. No,
It's worse.
David, there you go.
Okay, I'm back. My microphone is
Oh.
bad.
Yeah.
One last. They sent me an email recently. We see that you changed your seat because I can't concentrate where I was sitting, so I moved to a different area of the classroom. I just changed seats. We see you've changed seats. We would like to have a meeting with you because we feel that maybe something was off, like your neighbor is a little bit thinks that maybe you don't like her or something. And I thought, show me the fucking policy on changing seats in the goddamn classroom.
Yeah.
Hurt feelings?
But I think-
I'm not
I think-
responsible for other people's feelings. I'm just
I
not.
think we're kind of getting back to that same thing, right? Is that how do people like us hold to people who are in charge of the policies? They're in charge of how it looks like. They're in charge of the complaints process, even if it's sort of designed for you. How do we bring them to account? And the truth is what you've learned and what I've learned is it's really difficult. Although I would still say, I like what Jamie said, is that just sometimes making them put out the energy, you know, of, well, you can, you know, people, greater people than this have tried to ignore me. So we'll see what, we'll kind of see what happens. But, you know, it is a lesson in patience. And one of the things I came up with during COVID is there is no law they won't make, and there is no law that they won't break. And you should remember that.
Yeah.
Because you're not involved in any of that, right? So anyway, we should wrap it up. Everybody's been super generous with their time. Thanks, Jamie, for coming in from Tokyo. I really like what you brought there. Some of that stuff you said about the university and that research project I never thought of. I love payments terms. Thanks for coming in, helping me and my partner to the west. I really do appreciate it, and I really do appreciate, because these things are confusing for people, what you kind of bring to the table and sort of your understanding of it. And I do think that a lot of what I heard today too is that I need to sort of mitigate myself. I'm 24 months out with nothing. Not even an acknowledgement, except to say, why didn't I actually just delete that email if I didn't like it?
But Limina, they asked the ethics board. They say, hey, ethics board, we got this irritating hunter. They say, tell it, whatever, don't worry about it. The ethics board says, don't worry about you. I don't know. What is that? How they talk, literally? Anyway, probably not. I'm not smart enough. I'm not even smart enough. I just say, go fuck yourself when I hear this stuff. So that's why I can't even. Yeah, I say, just go fuck off. Yeah, leave me alone. God's sake.
Yeah.
I got no time for it, man. This DEI bureaucracy stuff. So it's gonna be hard for me to graduate. Actually, I actually am causing a lot of trouble. You know what they do? You know what they do when you send them an email saying, you know what? People are complaining. I have complaints. You know what they do? They send you suicide hotlines. They send you 10 mental health resources, and then you begin to start to believe, maybe I am mentally ill.
Well, I would say this to other disabled person or people that are involved in that a DEI thing, is they don't really believe it, because when I asked for help as somebody with cognitive impairments or whatever, saying like, I am really struggling to get through this process, I need some help, or I need an advocate, or can you tell me which way to go? They just didn't even answer to it. So I think
that was exactly my complaint, Limina. You know this, Payman knows it, everyone knows it. I had a stroke 1 year ago today, actually. and they know it. And the healthcare professionals who are burnt out, as they call themselves, they're burnt out healthcare professionals, and now they teach healthcare, for fuck's sake.
Those
Doesn't make
who
sense to
can't
me.
do teach.
Yeah,
Those
so
who can't
man,
do
dude,
teach.
I'm gonna do a whole show on this, and you're never gonna believe.
Sounds like you need to. We'll do that next one.
I do need to.
Payment on
Man, they're driving me
about
crazy at
it.
college.
And Jamie.
I get like I get excellent grades. And that's
David,
what
I'll have you on my podcast. We can talk about it.
Oh, man.
I gotta go. I got another
Yeah.
podcast in about 25 minutes.
Me too. I really appreciate you guys coming on. Let's wrap it up. Thanks again. If anybody else wants to get in touch with me about this issue, it's liminal resilience at proton.me, or you can follow me and David on the Riff Raff podcast or the Human Responsibilities Tribunal. Thanks again, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya. End stream right